The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And then lastly, on October 2nd,
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Take Action Against Fraud. Hi, I'm Judy Howard with ARC, and along with me here today, I have Cornelius Hadding and Doug Nass, who are heading up our Revenue Integrity team. And I'm happy to also be able to present our guest speaker today, who is Anique Turling from Perseus. Anique is the CEO of Perseus, and she is responsible for finding product market that fits to best serve fraud prevention demands in the travel industry. And what's really exciting here today is she and her team, along with our ARC team, Cornelius and Doug, have developed the ARC Risk Check to assist airlines and travel agents with fraud prevention. This is a relatively new product and offering, so this is kind of exciting that she's going to go through a demo, and we have our ARC experts, Cornelius and Doug, here to assist as well. If you want to ask questions throughout this presentation, just go to the right-hand side of your screen to the control panel, type those in, and we'll be asking those throughout this session this afternoon. We encourage you to do so you can get all the information that you need. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Anique, you're unique, but to start the presentation. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Judith, for the nice introduction. So my name is Anique, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about the ARC Risk Check. So first, I would like to give you a little bit more background information about what the ARC Risk Check is and why we decided to build that together with ARC. So Perseus is a global database of fraud. It was founded about 10 years ago when a group of airlines decided to start cooperating and working together to fight fraud. This initially was just sharing their fraud information, so their chargebacks, in Excel sheets, but soon enough that developed into a platform where by now hundreds of airlines and travel agents worldwide are sharing their fraud data. Then machine learning algorithms detect patterns in that fraud, and they return a scoring that will help you decide whether a transaction is trustworthy or risky. Based on that scoring, merchants can decide whether or not they want to accept a transaction or if they want to investigate further. So Perseus has been serving the industry for over 10 years, but it was mainly used by very big airlines and online travel agents. And we saw together with ARC that there was a very big portion of the travel industry that was suffering the same issues, but that they didn't have the same resources and knowledge to tackle those. So therefore, we decided to create the ARC Risk Check, which in essence is a simplified version of Perseus, tapping into the knowledge of the same database. So in essence, the tool will allow you to do very easy checks based on a bunch of elements that I will show you today, and it will give you a very clear answer whether a transaction is probably fraud or not. So even though you don't have much experience in fraud and you don't have the time or the resources to investigate in depth, this allows you to do a very quick and easy check. And based on that, you can decide if you want to accept or block a transaction. So what you're looking at is the home page. I will later walk you through the left side menu, but first let's tap right into what we want to see here, which is a check transaction. So as you can see, there's 4 main elements of a transaction, which are the email, the phone, the name, which is the first and the last name, and a IP address. So as you can see, I already filled out the first demo case, and we are now going to check that transaction. So I am going to walk you through what is the score. So as you see, it's a -99, which is very high risk. In this box, you can see a brief explanation of what this is. So the score is based on reported fraud cases in the Perseus community. This means that all the airlines and online travel agents that are using Perseus, they are also uploading their fraud. This means that there's thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of cases being added on a monthly basis. It's a very up-to-date view on the fraud that is targeting the travel industry. So due to the very high risk score, we advise you to either offer alternative payment methods without fraud risk or just to cancel the transaction. We only give this recommendation if we're really quite sure that this is fraud. So you can see here that there's a light red box that indicates just how fraudulent this specific element is. So you can see that out of these four, the riskiest was the email address and the billing phone number. And then there's also riskiness in the name and less in the IP address. There's a bunch of open elements here that I will explain later. So if you go to the right side of the display here, there is an explanation of why these elements were given the score that they got. So if we look at the first one, which is the email address, it got a -32 score. That is -32 out of -100 that it could get to. Why? So we see that this email address was reported 5 times as fraud, and that there are 4 transaction checks done in Perseus. So this means that it was reported 5 times as fraud, and apart from that, there was 4 checks done. 4 times it was used for a new transaction, and therefore it was checked in Perseus. That is a very bad rating. Obviously, this email address is used more often for fraud than it is for legitimate transactions. The first time the email address was checked was 45 months ago. What does this mean? It means that it has been in use fairly long. So in general, email addresses that are used for fraud are created about a month ago. A month or 2. So you can see that the older the email address is, the less likely it is to be used for fraud. And then you can see that the email address was used as a free domain. So @yahoo.com is obviously free. That means that free email addresses usually are more likely for being fraudulent. If you would like to receive more explanation about this, you can always click on the explanation box and it drops down and it explains you exactly the details of each of these cases. Now on the right side, you see that there's also a drop-down box that says investigate on the web. You can open all, and I'm not going to show that now because I have my pop-up blocked, but it will show you what you get if you would type in this email address in Google, in Have I Been Pwned, in Domain Who Is, and in LinkedIn. So it will help you investigate in other sources as well.
So hey, Anik, this is Cornelius. Just to add to that, so that will take you out of the ARC risk check environment and link you directly into those new environments and auto-populate that new tab with all the information, right?
Exactly. Thank you, Cornelius.
Yeah.
So if we then go to the second box, that was the billing phone number. It was reported 1 time as fraud, and there were 0 transaction checks done in Perseus. Then there's the name, about the same. And again, in each case, you can drop down and investigate on the web. Here you can see that there's also Facebook, Twitter, white pages added. So it will really help you to dive in deeper if you are still not confident about this, this overview. And at last, there's the IP check. So it was reported 7 times as fraud and checked more than 100 times.
So,
That's interesting.
So sorry, Anik, me again. Interject.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I don't mean to throw you off your.
No, please do.
Just for the IP address, I know that's very difficult for a lot of people to identify the IP address. In most instances, it's not a requirement, right? It's not. You don't need to have that in here. You can have one. You could do either one of these fields, right? So you can have all fields filled out or one of them filled out, and you will still get results. Correct?
Absolutely.
But of course,
Absolutely.
the more data you put in, the more accurate response is going to be. But just so that for people on the line, it's not that you have to have all this information in order to run a query to get a score. You can if you only have the email address, that will be enough to get you some information, correct?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we see in the Perseus community is that typically the email address is the main indicator for fraud. The IP address is a very relevant one as well. So as it identifies a quite unique location of where the person is using the internet, it usually links very tightly to the original fraudster. Apart from, and that's why this case is very interesting, this IP address was reported 7 times as fraud, but it was used for legitimate transactions over 100 times. What does it mean? In the last bullet point, it says that Perseus knows that this IP is a shared IP. That means that it's a public place. It could be a library, it could be a coffee shop, it could be any place where anybody can log on to the local network. This is, as you can see, this part is marked red because it indicates that it's risky. That it's a shared IP is green because it's actually a good sign in this case. It means that the next time that you see this IP address, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is fraud because it's a public place. Anybody could be making a reservation or a booking from that location. Perseus saw the IP address in a check for the first time 45 months ago, and we know that it's actually registered with this and this service. So in this case, as you can see, it is really quite risky. So there's not much for you to doubt on in this case. What I'm going to show you next, however, is a case where it's not that clear. And what I'm going to do now, instead of going to the home menu, which is where we started off in the first place, is I'm going to go and check risk details. This is in essence the same way of starting a check, except that it allows you. Yeah.
I thought maybe we just take a quick stop here, and we've got a couple of questions in that.
Oh, please.
Maybe we can quickly answer before we go ahead. So I don't know, do you mind?
Yeah, we got some good ones actually, and thanks everyone for asking these. The thing is, they said this is a good example, and the question is, can fraud check be done automatically in some manner rather than manually to add the data for each field? So is there some way maybe to pre-populate fields?
Yeah, so Anika, I'm going to hand over to you in a second. I just want to sort of recapture how it came about, the tool that we're looking at today. So this tool is really designed for the small to mid-size operators out there who might not necessarily have the set volume to automated environment. However, Perseus does have the ability to run an API integration as well, and I could get Anik to talk a little bit more about that. But when we sat down with Perseus, we've identified the gap in the market being that our small to mid-size participants have a very limited access to fraud tools, and especially considering the associated costs to some of those fraud tools. So we sat down and we tried to figure out what could be the most cost-effective way to bring a fraud solution to that group that is not going to be overpriced in any way or form. So hence the reason why this is such a manual environment is because it's keeping that cost down for the users. But as I mentioned, there is automation available. You can speak to Perseus about that, and I'll give Anik a few minutes or so just to talk about that as well. But there is the ability to do that.
Great. Thank you, Cornelius. And good questions coming in. Keep them going. Anik, we're going to turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cornelius. I think you did the majority of the explaining here. What I would like to add is that there's different types of subscriptions. You can find everything on the ARC page, but basically it allows you to do 30, 120, or 300 checks per month. So if you think that you either don't want to do all the manual copy pasting of each transaction, or your volumes will be more than the 300 per month, it would be worth looking at the opportunities of an API integration, which would allow you to automatically check real-time all your incoming transactions. So in this case, it would not only pre-populate all the fields, but it would look at a lot more fields as well. And we would return the scoring to your preferred fraud solution or in-house system that you might be using. So as Cornelius explained, today we will be looking mostly at the manual users, so the companies that have less resources available or less knowledge, so that they probably wouldn't be using the full potential of Perseus original database. But if you think that your company is big enough to do that and you would like to have access to the full potential, then please contact me later. Is there any more questions, Judith?
Yeah, let me just take a quick look. I think you answered some of them in regards to the API, because that was one of the questions that came through. And some of it is about how do we enroll and costs, and you can probably go over that a little bit more at the end. This is one that did come in that I think we can answer. If there are multiple passengers, do they have to be entered in separately? So if there's maybe a couple people or a handful of people on a record, do they each have to be entered in to kind of get that score, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So currently, yes. However, what you can do is fill out the first passenger of that booking, fill out the additional information that the booking was done with. So probably the email address, the billing phone, the IP address would all be the same. So you score that first passenger, that entire transaction. Then when you go back, you will be able to just change the passenger name and check again. So you would indeed get a separate score for all of the individual passengers.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Perfect. And I'm just kind of looking through here, and I think we're good for now. Anik, so I'll let you continue.
Okay, great, thanks. So I'm going to do, so just to take it back one step, so I went to this button that says check risk details, which is actually the same way of starting a transaction check, just that this page allows you to fill out a lot more fields. So in this case, we have an email address, which is actually my finances department address. Then we have an IP address available. I have a billing phone. Where do I put that here? And then there is, again, a passenger name, which goes by the name of John Doe. If you would have any of the additional information available, as Cornelius pointed out earlier, you can fill it out. Obviously, the more information available the most certainty we have on providing you a scoring. However, if you just have an email address available, that's fine too. None of these fields are mandatory. Just to walk you through them though, there is the billing address, city, country, and zip code. And then there's the point of arrival and departure in addition.
Anik, Anik, sorry about that. In regards to the billing name, and if it is, there's a billing name and it's different than the actual passenger that's traveling, is there a way to deal with that at this stage in the product, the tool?
At this point in time, there's no billing name, so it just says the billing address, city, country, and zip code, but no name.
Okay, and is that an enhancement? I'm looking here at Cornelius and John.
So today the tool is scoring the individual who's booking the transaction. So they are looking for the individual who has generated chargebacks, ending up in debit memos, ending up with the cost to the agency in that regard. So that is where the reporting is coming in. So they've seen fraudulent chargebacks, they've seen friendly fraud and chargebacks, and this is what's being reported into the tool. So it's the individual that's being scored. We are working with Perseus in a potential fraud suite that would look at the card holder data as well. But today the CC, the card holder information is not being captured or scored in this regard for PCI compliance related reasons. And therefore it's something that is being worked on as a future solution.
Great, thank you, Cornelius. So this is kind of where we are today, and there'll be enhancements as time goes on, and if it's applicable.
If it fits in, yes, that would go. And I didn't want to speak on your behalf there, Anik, but that was.
That's quite all right, thank you. So what we see here. What was that, Judith? More questions?
Nope, not right now. Sorry about that.
Okay, great. So what we see here is a moderately trustworthy transaction. It got a score of 40. Maximum scoring available is plus 100. So what is to be added this week is a bar that's similar to this bar that will give you the minimum scoring and the maximum scoring available, so that you get instantly a very clear image of how positive this scoring really is. So in this case, it's let's say 40% trustworthy. So on the right side, again, you see a lot of green fields, so that's all positive. Yeah, I think at this point, no need to go through all of the details again, but please let me know if you want me to go through that.
So this, if I'm a travel agent, I would accept this person, right?
Absolutely.
Basically, so I can, with confidence, accept the transaction.
Absolutely, and then you can always look into more details. What is the recommendation that we give you? So in this case, we say multiple elements of this transaction have been seen before by the Perseus community without any fraud being previously reported. Right. So we advise you in this case to just accept the transaction.
So a question that has come in, so is there a scale, like this says 40 and this is acceptable? Is there a range in numbers, or is it a number and then it's really important to look at that detail? For the
yeah, so you can already find what a score really means in the manual that sits over here in documentation. You can find the user manual and it will explain you exactly the range of the scoring. But as I explained before, it will be displayed here as well. So 0, it means that we haven't really seen any of the elements before. Plus 100 means that we are 100% sure that this is a trustworthy customer, and minus 100 is that we're 100% sure that that is fraud.
Yeah,
now, please I'd like to make a little side note here that 100% sure it can never be said in fraud prevention, because even the best customer email address can be hacked and then used for a fraudulent transaction. So it means that when we are 100% sure, it means that in the past, there have been only positive transactions associated with these fields. So based on previous experiences, this is what Perseus can tell you. But please note that this is never a guarantee.
Yeah, and a decision should be made based on the agency or airline's risk appetite as well. And based on, this is just information that you can use in addition to other factors and or checks that you do on a daily basis as part of your assessment of a customer to drive an acceptance or decline.
Exactly. Okay. So, and by the way, for relating to the previous question, if now you know that this gets a 40 score, but if now you would like to recheck with a different name, for example, you can change here and then score again. So recheck the transaction. So let's go to a final case. We have got here an accountant. I've got another phone number. I've got an IP address. And I've got a name. All right, let's check. So this transaction is high risk and likely a fraudulent transaction. In this case, however, you can see that it's mainly the email address, because you can see this red bar loading. It's mainly the email address, and then his name and the phone number and the IP address we really haven't seen before. So in this case, if you were to compare this to the -99 scoring that we got earlier, in that case, it's really easy, right? You just block the transaction. However, in this case, you might not be 100% sure. So what you might want to do in this case is just check, go through all the explanation and see why is this risky or why is this trustworthy. The IP address is in Mexico. Does that relate to the rest of the information that you have on this passenger? Is it likely that this ticket was booked from Mexico, etc.?
Anik, this is Doug.
However,
I just want to add that accountant.com is well known to be used very often by fraudsters operating out of West Africa. So that alone would be an issue. Or be at accountant.com or at dr, like doctor at dr.com is another one that is pretty commonly used by various West Africa fraudsters.
Thank you, Doug. And that's actually, thank you for pointing that out. I forgot to show you that here in the email address part in the drop-down menu, you can see that the field email address, exactly this one, renee@accountant.com, was never reported and never checked before. However, the email domain name was reported as fraud 331 times before. So that means that exactly as you pointed out, that this is a very fraudulent domain name. However, if you were in any case not sure what you want to do with a transaction, then there's always this get help option. So ask the fraud team on their opinion and on this transaction. So what this would do is it would open again a page where you can fill out additional information. It pre-fills the information that you had already filled out before, but you can add a lot more about basic information, passengers, travel, booking, or address. And then you can contact the expert. Now, the experts in this case are at ARC, and they will be looking at your specific case and helping you to make a decision on this one.
Yeah, so Anik, if I can add there. So today we send out alerts to both the agency and airline community about fraudulent transactions in the systems. So today we've got a lot of data that we also share. So we've got data into the Perseus environment that should identify a lot of these transactions. But of course, our load time versus the time that you are checking it might not necessarily always coincide, and there might be a bit of an overlap. So if you do get a score that you're certain about, or something you want to validate, that information does come to us. That question comes to us, and we can double check in our systems to see if we've seen those guys or that fraudster already, and we can confirm that back to you. And if we haven't seen them, we can also inform you of that as well. So the data is loaded from our side, but again, that time and overlap potential is there. And sometimes we would see something that has not yet been loaded or validated. But if an agency or an airline comes back and asks us that question, we can either say we have seen them, or we haven't seen them, and get back to you in that way. Or yeah.
Great. Thank you for adding that, Cornelius.
Yeah.
And this is the last showcase that I wanted to run you through. So before I go to the left side menu and explain you more about that, Judith, are there any more questions about the way of checking?
Yeah, let me take a look right here. Let's see. Let me see here. There are some questions that have come in. So let me just kind of take a look here to see.
Or if not, maybe you would like a moment to go through them, and in the meantime, I can just run through the different options here.
Yeah, there's one that's come in. Let me just ask this. I'll throw this one out, and then I'll take some time to look at some of these while you go over the thing on the column on the left. Do you have any statistics that you can share the number or percent of suspected fraud that since this tool has been developed, is there like a number where it's kind of helped, 50% of the time,
decrease
of the time?
Yeah. So that's a very good and a very legitimate question. We do have some numbers specifically from the Perseus community. So first, let me explain that it's very hard to get these numbers. Why? It's very easy for us to say that we can decrease fraud by 100%. All we have to do is just block 100% of the transactions. So in essence, there is always a very delicate balance between blocking as many transactions that are fraudulent, but still having the highest conversion rate as possible. So the downside of this is that it's very hard to measure your success rate, because if we, as Perseus, would have given you a very high scoring and you blocked a transaction, we will never know if that case would have been fraudulent, right?
Right.
The only way of doing that, and this is how I am able to give you some of these numbers, is by doing checks in retrospect, is doing an historic data analysis. So what we did with a lot of the Perseus customers is take their data from the last half year before they were using Perseus, see the transactions that they accepted, the ones they blocked, and the ones that got back as fraudulent. We then run these information or these data sets against our platform, and then we give them the scoring that we would have given them at that point in time. Now, this might be a little bit technical, but what it boils down to is that we can calculate that there is, in general, the opportunity to decrease fraud with about 33%, providing that you still have the same conversion rate.
Okay.
So you would still have as many transactions as you did before, but you would have 33% less fraud.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is another question that came in. Is there a way to review bulk transactions, or is it really an individual at a time?
This ARC risk check just allows you to do individual checks. There is the opportunity, as I explained before, to kind of upgrade to Perseus, and in there you would have the opportunity to do as many checks at once as you like. So in there you can just upload Excel files.
Okay, great. Here's one more, and are there any plans to add this score directly to the PayHub interface for agents processing payments through that interface?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the ArcPay Hub environment, we're working with Perseus in integrating this solution together with other solutions into the ArcPay Hub that will allow you to have access to a number of fraud scoring tools straight off that platform. But this is something that's probably in the pipeline for 2020. We're putting together our requirements for that build, and we'll be starting that build probably in 2020, Q1 2020.
Okay, very good. So there are enhancements to come.
Yeah.
This is a question, and then Anik, I'll turn it back over to you, but let me just get this one in. And I think, Cornelius, you touched on it, but it popped up again. So just to make sure people are clear, is there a quick way to find the IP address?
I mean, we do the same efforts and go through the same hoops to try and obtain the IP addresses. Anik, I don't know if you've got a better way to or know of a better way to find the IP addresses. But as mentioned earlier, though, is that even though the tool allows you to include the IP address, it's not a necessity. You can still get a score, you can still get results by using email only, phone only, and any other information individually. However, the more information, the better the result, because you have more factors to score against. But the IP address is not a must-have. It's a nice-to-have, but it's not a must-have.
Good. Thank you, Cornelius. And I said that was the last one before I turn it back to Unique, but I just want to get this one in as well, because it sounds like people are trying to log in as we're in the session here today. And it says, how do they get a login? Is it their ARC details, or how do they do that?
Yeah, so if you go to arccorp.com under the product section, there's right at the bottom underneath ArcPay, there is ARC Risk Check. If you click on that, it'll take you through to the page there. And from there, it'll direct you to registering. You have to go through and sign the terms and conditions with Perseus there. And then once you get that, you'll obtain access to the tool once you've gone through the agreement and contract there to use the tool, and that's how you'll gain access to ARC Risk Check. It's not a auto sign in from the My ARC environment.
And can you please repeat that email address or login?
Sure. You can go to arccorp.com under the product section, product tab. If you hover on that, you will get the option to click on ARC Risk Check, which is bottom leftish. middle left. And if you click on that, you'll take you through to the page, give you more information about the tool, how it works. Also the pricing, there's 3 tiers for pricing there as well. So you can look at what suits you best. There is also the option to ask for more information for any checks above 300 and or any other information that you might need, such as the IP, if you require an IP, if you require integration in your booking tool or anything like that, that information you can ask questions there, and it'll come through to us, and we'll set up meetings with Perseus for you to have a discussion about that. But for those who want to use it at the as is environment, you can then from there agree to sign up to use the tool and get logged in. I think it's within a day, if not less, Anik, that an account can be set up, right?
Exactly, absolutely.
Great. Anik, back over to you.
All right, thanks. So we've been through the risk details check, contact the expert. So let's have a look at the report a chargeback option. So this is basically a way for you to feed the database, to attribute to the global database of fraud.
Anik? Anik?
Hi,
Hey.
am I back again?
Yeah, you're back. Sorry, everyone. We just had a little technical glitch. My apologies on that. Thank you, Anik. And thanks, everyone.
That's all right. So I was explaining to nobody, apparently, that there was the report chargeback option, which is basically a way for you to feed the database, to contribute to the overall global fraud information that our algorithms are using to calculate the scoring. So these data elements that you can add here are in essence the same as you would add when checking a transaction. Now, please be 100% sure when you add a case here as a chargeback. This is very important information. If somehow legitimate transactions end up in here, it would influence the scoring. Of course, we have algorithms in place to check the quality of the data, and we actually have a manual team as well going through. But still, be careful with this. It is very welcome information, though. So anybody that is targeting your agency or your airline is very likely, if they were blocked, to then try again with your colleagues at a different company. So please help each other by reporting your chargeback here. Then if we go back to the left side menu, there is the bin search option. So as we briefly touched upon, there is currently no credit card information linked to these checks. However, there is a way that at least we can help you find the bank that issued a credit card. So if you see that it was issued by, for example, a Dutch bank, then you can fill out the bin range, and we would display here the contact information of that particular bank. It would allow you to contact that bank and ask them to reach out to the card holder. So this might take a little bit longer, but in case you would like to go the extra mile to get that extra verification, then this might be your starting point. Going back to the menu and going to settings.
Hey, Anik, just to add on the bin data, we use bin data in our rule sets here at ARC as well. So we do look for foreign banks versus a myriad of data points that come in through bin data. That's very helpful. So it does add value.
Thank you, Cornelius. So in your settings, you have, of course, your profile. We can actually click on that and go. You can here fill out everything that you would like about your profile, your title, phone number, mobile phone number, about me. This is visible to other users. So in case you would like to share that information, then please do so. Your password, you can upload an image, just really completing your profile here. And then, of course, there's the security settings. Your logons, you can review when was the last time you logged on and enable the two-factor authentication, which I would highly encourage you to do. There's information about your subscription. This also displays the pricing available. So the standard menu would allow you 30 checks per month and 1 user for $29.99. The plus subscription would allow you to do 120 checks for $59.99, and then the premium 300 for $99.99. If you know, as I explained before, that you will be doing more checks, then please reach out to either us or to ARC, so we can discuss what would be the best type of package for you. The last section.
Go ahead. I was just going
is about.
No, go ahead.
I'm nearly finished. I think only the last section here is the documentation. Clicking on that will open the manual, which will explain basically everything I just told you in a little bit more detail. So feel free to go to that, and if you still have questions, then never doubt to just contact us. And that was it for my part, Judy.
Thank you, Anik. I just want to add again, ARC today sends alerts out to the agency and airline community. A lot of what we do is data driven. So the data that we get from travel agents and airlines help us to what Anik said there earlier. It's a part of the community, is to help drive fraud prevention for the next guy down the line. And so that's very important, to be part of the community and drive reduction in fraud through that. I mean, if anybody on the call participated in our ARC Fraud Month in September, the focus there was collaboration, and we continue to talk about collaboration and need for collaboration. This is one of those platforms that allows for us to collaborate in a single environment and share information that benefits everybody, and that's the whole purpose of this, and the whole reason why we worked with Perseus to bring the solution to you guys. And yeah, that's basically it.
Great. And Cornelius, Anik, if someone's really interested in this, where do they reach out? Contact information?
Sure.
Yep.
So the best place to go is arccorp.com. And look under our products section on the web page there. It'll take you through to the options there, and one of the options is ARC Risk Check. Just click on that, and from there you'll be routed to a sign up environment. It also allows you to choose which option you want to go for. You can also use that same environment to reach out to us if you want to do something beyond the 300 checks, if you want something a bit more integrated, a bit more automated. Our email address is there. It's arccheck@arccorp.com for that one. And, just send that through to us, and we'll field it with Anik, and we'll get a meeting set up and have a discussion with you in order to find the best fit for your business.
Great, because this was such a nice overview of the tool and really the benefits of it. As Doug, Cornelius, and Ike were part of our fraud month as well, how important a topic this really is for the industry, and really how ARC is partnering with folks such as Perseus to really help you, our customers, to combat that in some way, because it just doesn't seem like it's going away at all. So this is an option to really help for our customers on the phone today. And anything else, Anik, you would like to add before we end here today? I'm going to just check to see if there are some more questions. Anik, anything?
No, I think for my part, I think I told you everything that there is to explain about the solution. The final thing maybe that would be interesting is that you can check if you like using this solution for free for 1 week. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to just sign up and check it out for a week. And then if you don't like it, then that's fine. Then you just let us know.
Yeah, that sounds like a great option. There's nothing to lose with doing that, and people may see the benefit right away. There are a couple questions that have come in. I think we'll eke them in. We have a few minutes here. Is ARC planning on using Perseus internally in any way, as well as making it available for travel agencies? One question. We would be interested in getting the API. How can we reach her or ARC? And it's the same pipe.
Yeah, so I think the email address is in front of you for Anik on the page right now. But you can also reach us at arccheck@arccorp.com. Back to the first part of the question. Yes, we are using Perseus. We are also supporting a data feed to Perseus. So we load all the fraudulent data that we identify into the Perseus environment. So again, we're driving that collaboration. We're part of the community. We do a lot of work with Perseus in fraud prevention across globally, and we participate in a myriad of law enforcement driven fraud prevention as well with Perseus. They're very active with the Europol environment and so forth. More of that's available on the Perseus website as well, but there's really a lot of work being done both from an ARC and Perseus perspective on globally against travel fraud and driving arrests and solutions to support the industry.
Okay, great. Good information. Thank you, Cornelius. Here's another one that has come through. I think this is a good one. We have thousands of transactions per month. At what point in the transaction process do you recommend checking transactions?
As early as possible.
and I think the question is, does all the thousands have to be checked, or is it more of a random thing?
Yeah,
how would you recommend?
So if you've got a known database of customers, of course, you trust those guys. You're not going to run them through the same rule sets as you would a new customer. So your number of thousands of transactions might reduce dramatically if you've got a history with someone, so that you can, if you do see them again for the second, third, fourth time, you can maybe not push them through your secondary review part. Whereas if it's someone brand new, you definitely want to put them through a secondary review or an additional review, new rules or different rules that is different to your known customers. So it just depends again on how you set up. What are your rules today? Is everybody going through them regardless if they new or old? How easy can you change your rules? And then, of course, how quickly do you want to have your information validated? So if you have some automation in place today for accepting your transactions, which if you're doing thousands of them, you probably do, where do you integrate a solution such as Perseus? You want to do it as as early as possible at that front end when that transaction is being processed on your e-commerce environment, so you can score them and get that real-time data before. Again, we're working in this industry. We are all working with very tight timelines to rectify things. So if something has been identified as fraudulent, to avoid that transaction and to avoid downstream knock-on effects, you have really 24 hours to react to that fraudulent transaction and take action in order to avoid it. So you want to be as close to the transaction initiation as possible when you look at your transaction scoring.
Okay, great. We do have some more questions that have come in, so I'm going to try to get as many of these in as we can. This one I think is a good one. Is there any rollover use of the, like if you've signed up for a certain threshold of checks per month and you don't use it, is there any rollover? That one? Okay.
So the way it works is that you would currently just pay extra for the amount of checks that you did. So as you see here with the $30 a month subscription that allows you to do 30 checks, if you do any additional checks than these two, you would be charged just for $1. If, as you can see, with $60, that would allow you to do 120 checks. That means that a single check is just 50 cents. So for any additional checks, you would only pay 50 cents. Now, we, together with ARC, we keep an eye on your expenses. So if we see that you're severely passing this, your subscription level, we will reach out to you and say, hey, maybe it might be more economic for you to upscale.
Great. No, perfect. So
yeah, but there's also no ability therefore, if you've had 30 checks for the month and you didn't use those 30 checks, to have them roll over to the next month, and now you have 60 checks, right? I think it's 30 checks per month, use it or lose it type of scenario. Is that correct, Anik?
You caught me off guard there a little bit. To my knowledge, you would lose those 30 checks. I'm not sure, and now I understand what rollover means here in English. It's
thank you, Cornelius, for the translation. Me, it was clear.
Thank you. I didn't know that word. So to my knowledge, no. There's a you would lose those checks.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Cornelius, for that. That I think more clearly answered that question. This is another one. Is it possible to upload a report file with a listed chargeback reporting fraud cases?
Yes.
I'm hearing a lot of yes.
Does
someone want to expand?
Anik, you want to take that one?
Go for it.
Okay. If you have a spreadsheet with that information, you can send it to us and we can load it into the Perseus environment directly together with our normal data feed, and it'll get into the system and into the community that way. So you can send that to us at arccheck@arccorp.com and we'll get it loaded.
Great. And then we're going to end it with this last one, just to repeat again, where can somebody go to start that 1 week trial? Is that still going to the ARC Corp or is that a?
Yeah, I think, and Anik, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you just sign up for it, you automatically get the 1 week free trial. I don't think there's a special link for the 1 week free trial. It's just sign up and you'll automatically get the free trial.
Absolutely. That's for everybody.
That is a great offering. We're going to end here today so that we're kind of within our time slot, but I want to thank everyone that did take the time to join us for this webinar this afternoon. And I also do want to say, we may have been asking questions over each other at times, but Anik has been so kind to stay up all evening. We're here on the East Coast in the States. I know some of you are joining us probably from around the globe. But Anik, thank you for taking the time. You're calling in from the Netherlands, and we can't see you to get a facial expression sometime. Thanks for everyone's patience as we tried to get all those questions answered. We really do appreciate you being on the webinar with us. And for Cornelius, Doug, Anik, thank you very much for being our presenters today. And that email address again is arccheck@arccorp.com. Please reach out. We look forward to hearing from you. As always, you can contact our customer care area at CCC Help, and that's at arccorp.com as well. And I will leave it with, because this is our fraud awareness and helping in that whole area, we do have our Stop Fraud at arccorp.com as well if you suspect fraud. So please always reach out to our group here, our Revenue Integrity Group, which is Cornelius, Doug, and their entire team that help all of you on a daily basis. Also, it's 855-358-0393 is the fraud helpline here at ARC. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world today. Anik, thank you very much, and Cornelius and Doug as always. And hope you will join us, our guests today, on future webinars. And let us know if you have topics you'd like us to present on. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you, Judith.
Nice
Bye,
holidays.
everybody.
Thanks, Anik. Thanks, everyone on the call.